I want to talk about something that I've been playing around with for probably about a year now. Experience is always our best teacher, and from my experience over that time, I've come up with an understanding of thoughts and emotions. I asked the question to someone a while back, how quick does an emotion manifest in our body or manifest in our mind? And I was a bit ridiculed. But I think it's a good question to try to understand. Thoughts come and go all day long. There's thousands of them that happen. And they do generate certain emotions. And it just depends on what we hook into, what thoughts we hook into, as to whether we create suffering in our life, whether those emotions create turmoil in our life. That's the first thing to look at. The next thing to look at is the way we resist our emotions. There's pleasant and unpleasant emotions and a lot of emotions in between. But it's the way we resist them that is the problem. We subconsciously or consciously create a pattern whereby we don't really express and feel the emotion and take the emotion in, especially the unpleasant ones. And usually that creates problems in our lives, conflicts. We blame others, we judge, we criticise, we get jealous, we get envious. It creates a lot of problems. So the second thing is to see where we're resisting and judging our emotions. Because when we do that, we're not really clear on our choices and the choices of resolving conflicts, of healing our relation with ourselves, of making choices around goals and things we want to achieve, our potential, all those things that you hear about with motivational speakers. So by resisting emotions, it does create quite a few problems for us, especially the emotion of fear. So I'll go back to the first question and say, right, when or how long does it take an emotion to manifest with a thought? It's virtually instantaneous. Remember, the thoughts will come and go. It's whether we hook into them, whether we make a drama out of them, whether we want to create suffering for ourselves and those around us. Even when we feel as if we're on the right path, as if we're right and the other person's wrong, even if we suffer injustice and we can't forgive someone for something that was intolerable, something deviant that they did. It could be many things. It could be people lying against us. It could be you're taken through the legal system because people are lying about you. It could be simply personal relationships where people tend to lie, or you think they're lying about you, or they create suffering in your life, and it creates injustice. So it depends on how much we hook into those thoughts as to whether we suffer. Now, if you take revenge or try to justify or run away, that is all a form of suffering. The whole concept the concept of well-being, emotional, physical, spiritual well-being, is to stay there and to face that and to deal with that. If you can't change the situation, but you can accept it, that's just another choice. And that moves on to the third part. When does an emotion, especially the unpleasant ones, manifest in our body? Instantaneous. Our past will always react, our senses will always react in certain situations. Someone might do something that someone did to us years ago, and so that past will always be there. But we always have the power of choice. We always can choose as to what we want in life. And my life is simply now, I just don't want to suffer anymore. That's simple. I just don't want to suffer. So it's hooking into those thoughts and creating those emotions that are especially unpleasant emotions that create suffering and dramas in our life. The how. I always like to give people a how. So you've got the thought. The how is to watch the thought. The how is to have a strong intention not to hook into the thoughts that create unnecessary suffering for yourself. And that can be as simple. It doesn't have to be anything big and dramatic. It can be as simple as criticizing somebody. It can be as simple as voicing your strong opinion on anything or your strong belief with a feeling that you are right. The other person is wrong, no matter how much injustice there is. You can talk about it, you can state your case, and you can put your point of view across, but as long as you don't suffer. And the how in doing that is your consciousness, in watching your thoughts. To watch your thoughts, you need to raise your level of consciousness. Raise your level of consciousness above that standard that we've set ourselves with our mind. The mind has developed to a certain extent in the human species whereby there's so much suffering going on, it's just unbelievable. It just increases more and more and more, and surely everybody notices that. It's just obvious that the suffering, the violence, the wars, the conflicts, the dramas are all increasing. So the answer is to raise that level of consciousness above that level of thinking that most people are on. Once you step above that level of consciousness, you can watch your thoughts. You can see them. You can see where they create suffering for yourself. And if your intention is not to suffer anymore, you will let those thoughts go. Okay, so I like to give the how again. You got raise your level of consciousness so as you can see the thoughts and you can make the choice not to hook into them. Consciousness is the ability to raise your level of thinking above the level of thoughts that create suffering. The ability to see what you need to change to create no more suffering in your life. That was Buddha's main purpose. Simply to end suffering. So how do you raise your level of consciousness? You go inward. How do you go inward? You start meditating. Meditating is not sitting down with your eyes closed and having a practice, whether it be a mantra or whatever it is, focusing on your breathing. It's not only that, it's an important part of meditation, but it's not only that. You can be meditating just by speaking to people and speaking to certain people or everybody and the environment, just looking how beautiful the day is. You could be meditating on even if it's a rainy, gloomy day, you could be meditating on that and saying, wow, we need the rain for everything to grow. You can create choices around the way you think about appreciating your job. One day you're thinking, oh God, this job's terrible. When you stop suffering, that's suffering. When you look at those thoughts and you change and you stop that and you stop suffering, you look at it with appreciation. Wow, this job, yeah, it's boring sometimes, maybe all the time, but I appreciate it because it gives me money to give me the lifestyle that I want. It makes me very productive. It puts me out there. I'm meeting people every day. It gives me something to get up to every morning, etc., etc. Okay, so the how is the meditation, going inward. You could be running, that's a form of meditation. You could be in prayer, that's obviously a form of meditation. You can be any form of religion and still go into meditation. Okay, but the ones where you focus on your inner self and you become in tune with your inner body, those sort of techniques are the ones that do raise your level of consciousness fairly quickly. And it does take time, and there's challenging moments. It won't be peaceful state that you're always in. You'll see things that you need to change, and sometimes those things are difficult to change. So it does get challenging, but it really is worth it. It is so worth it. So that is my little talk on the manifestation of emotions in our body, and how they're so affected by thoughts, which are affected by our past, which are affected by our intention. What is our intention? Do we want to stop suffering, or do we want to continue with our dramas? It revolves around our choices, because once you can see you're suffering with the actions that you take, you will certainly make better choices. You can go onto our website, and that's got some other details, some free ebooks. So that's available to you as well. So until then, bye for now.